So I'll give you a brief overview of the Wellness Center. And here in Guyana, the Wellness Center was funded by Ms. Chanel Beard in 2019 as she won a business project competition at the Youth Global Forum. So generally what the organization offers is to raise awareness for mental health and also to reduce the stigma of mental health within Guyana and globally as well. So we will have various campaigns to raise awareness for mental health across the board, whether we use social media, alternative therapy options, school outreach programs, or we would utilize various videos to get the message across. Support groups, we offer support groups through group counseling. For example, whether that might be depression, anxiety, or anger management. We also facilitate workshops and training for mental health, first aid, and nutrition. Our alternative therapy options would be in the form of either art or music to yoga, and we also offer online counseling as well. So here's where I come in. I would normally facilitate in the online counseling clinic. Apart from myself, there are other counselors who are on board, all parts of the NGO to raise the awareness for mental health. All right, so we will go into today's presentation, and I would like for you to pay attention to some key terms as we discuss across the board. All right, so the first thing is mental wellness. Mental wellness is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, being able to cope with the normal stresses of life, being able to work productively and fruitfully. All right, so I would have underlined normal stresses of life. Stress is a normal part of life. It is not something that we can run away from. There is good stress, there is bad stress. Good stress would normally motivate. It would help us to focus. It is short-term. It looks at our coping abilities. It gives some form of excitement and improves our performance. Whereas with bad stress, of course, it's the complete opposite of that. But the most important thing in looking at stress is all about how we cope and how we manage effectively. And we will be looking at some strategies for management coming down to the end of the presentation. The next is burnout. And this burnout typically occurs within the workplace, or it is known as a work-related stress. Previously, burnout was mostly focused on the helping professionals, but right now, mental health burnout is across the board that affects different professions. And then we have self-care, of which we will be dealing with at the end of the session, which is the act of taking care of one's mental, emotional, and physical health. All right, so the signs of poor mental wellness and burnout. Mood changes. If it is that you are noticing any changes in your mood, irritability, things that would not normally cause you to be fretful, you're easily angered, you're lashing out at your friends, your co-workers, your employer, your supervisor. The sudden outburst of emotion as well, not being able to effectively manage those emotions, changes in one's behavior. Things that you're not accustomed doing, you're beginning to do. So paying attention to all of these changes, being mindful of what it is that you're doing, how it is that I'm behaving any differently, changes in the physical appearance, your hygiene. Maybe for ladies, for example, not having the opportunity to take care of your hair, men not being able to groom well, not finding the time to do so. Changes in your sleep patterns. This can either be too much sleep or too little sleep. All right, and that will affect your health. So the next point is changes in physical health, such as aches and pains. For example, some persons might experience headaches, neck pain, gastrointestinal challenges such as gut, any changes in the gut, upset stomach, general fatigue, changes in appetite, either too much eating or too little eating. Reduction in concentration. It is not easy for you to concentrate effectively on the job. You're not concentrating at home. You're missing things. You're making errors that you would not normally make. Changes in your relationship or your social interaction with others. There is withdrawal. Either you withdraw from your peers, you withdraw from your family members. There is interpersonal conflict that happens quite frequently. Changes in your job performance. And as I would have mentioned, similarly as it relates to the reduction in concentration, you begin to make errors, handling assignments or projects not on time, you're missing things, and which also affects time management. High absenteeism, poor memory, impatience with customers or clients, depending on the type of job that you are in. All right. So some of the effects of poor mental health or not taking care of your mental well-being, not keeping in check. Poor diet choices. We tend to quite easily eat junk food. So I'm feeling a bit moody, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling upset. Let me get McDonald's or KFC or comfort food, some ice cream. And we tend to just be involved in all of the sugar, the fat, not paying attention to what it is that we're placing in our system. All right, and that can lead to physical illnesses in the long run as well, such as high blood pressure and diabetes. There is the increased risk of some mental health disorders, for example, depression and anxiety. For some persons, they may already be predisposed to some mental health disorders, but if it is that you are not taking care of your mental well-being, you're placing yourself at a pretty higher risk for these mental health disorders, right? So you want to deal with our mental health before it gets out of hand. Your work performance is reduced, as I mentioned before. There is high turnover, and this would be for the perspective of the employer or managers. You have to hire new staff because persons leaving the job for different reasons. And then impaired relationships with your coworkers, your family, your friends, as I would have mentioned before, interpersonal conflict. Some risks to mental wellness within the workplace, and I would like for those who are employers or managers or supervisors to pay attention to this particular aspect, making sure that the work environment is suitable for your employees or staff, and flexible working hours. Whether you are self-employed or you're employed by a company, paying attention to those long work hours. We need time to rebalance, we need time to recuperate. It's quite important. Lack of team cohesion, and this also stems into your social interaction. Teamwork is important, support is important. No man is an island. We need each other, we need each other's support. Undefined objectives or goals coming from management can cause persons to be irritable, can cause confusion, psychological harassment, lack of employee support, poor health and safety practices, and poor management and communication practices. All right, so now we will look at some of the causes of burnout. And as I would have mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, burnout is mostly a work-related stress. All right, and you can take it home with you because you're irritable, you're not feeling any sense of achievement on the job, and at home you're stressed out, you're not able to relate to your family well. So excessive work hours, insufficient training, lack of appreciation from management, customers, or clients. That is why support from management is quite key across the board. Sometimes in jobs, let's say for those within the helping profession, that customers or clients isn't showing any appreciation for persons who go out of their way to assist. That can make anybody frustrated or overwhelmed. All right. Isolation from peers or no social life, lack of resilience, poor time management, dissatisfaction with intimate relationships, which can go into the work-related space. If it is that your intimate relationships, communication is poor, there's conflict, it will affect the way you function on the job. And lastly, no sense of achievement or job satisfaction. So some tips to manage your mental health and to prevent burnout. So this is the meat of this session. This is what we will be focusing on, and I'll take my time and we will go through this in detail. So mindfulness. Mindfulness is a technique that we tend to use within the mental health field. And basically what it is just paying attention to your thoughts, your needs, your feelings, and your senses. For example, if it is that you're feeling nervous, accepting the fact that you are feeling nervous, accepting what it is. Okay, so I'm feeling nervous. What then can I do about my nerves? Accepting thoughts. What certain thoughts are challenging negative thoughts. For example, let's say in the pandemic, I'm not safe at home. I need to get out. I'm not safe at home. Reframing that into a positive thought can be, I am safe at home. Being inside, I am safe, compared to I'm not safe at home. I need to get outside. But being at home is safe, and I can do things that might be fun, or I can work from home. Just challenging those thoughts, being aware of your senses, being aware of what you can see, what you can taste, what you can smell. Oftentimes we eat and may not pay attention to the taste of food. Taking the time out to savor the goodness of that meal, taking your time. So just paying attention to your overall thoughts, your feelings, and your needs as well. Understanding the risk of your job and celebrating its rewards. For example, let's look at frontline workers, for example. Their job poses a lot of risk right now, but celebrating the rewards of those risks. I'm putting myself out there, but at the same time, I'm helping to save a life. I'm helping to combat this pandemic. So for police officers, looking at the risk, but also celebrating the reward to the end, being able to motivate yourself. All right, setting clear boundaries between work and personal life. This is quite important. Sometimes we tend to overwork by not paying attention to what we need within our personal life, whether it might be more social time, more family time, time for self-development. It is quite important to set the boundaries between the two. Setting boundaries at work is also important between colleagues and with clients as well, right? Having a self-care plan, of which we will go through in detail at the end of the session. Seeking support. Support is necessary, whether that might be a friend, a colleague, or a professional, if it is that you are not comfortable speaking to a friend or a colleague. Or vice versa, if you're not comfortable speaking to a professional, you seek support. However, if it is for those who are supporting you and it is beyond them, professional advice or professional services is quite important. All right. Goal setting and time management. Being able to prioritize what it is that you need to complete first to what it is that doesn't need that much time, that you don't need that much time for. Placing things into smaller categories compared to a big or a large bulk. Having a to-do list. Time management, your goal setting. If it says at the end of the week, this is what I would like to accomplish. At the end of the month, this is what I would like to accomplish. And you're keeping track of what it is that you're doing. And a little tip, you can have someone for accountability sake, who will be able to keep track and you, okay, well, were you able to complete this by this time? Why weren't you able to complete it? So having a accountability partner is also important in this regard. All right, I would have spoken to challenging negative thinking into positive thinking before. Exercise. Exercise helps with the flow of energy within the brain. When we exercise, it shifts our mood. It helps us to feel better, not only physically, but also emotionally. All right, and this is also important for diet and nutrition. Sometimes when we eat a lot of the junk food, you feel sluggish. When you change your diet, more water, more leafy vegetables, fruits, maybe less meat for some persons, depends on the type of diet that you're having. you feel a little more energetic. A lot of sugary foods as well and fatty foods can make us feel sluggish, and that will affect our mood. It has a lot of bearing on our mood and the way that we conduct ourselves. Paying attention to your social life. I know this may be different for extroverts compared to introverts. So persons who are extroverted, paying attention to the social life may not be a big aspect for them, but maybe for the introverts. So it all depends on the individual. For an introvert, they may prefer to sit home, chill, watch Netflix, maybe just chill with a family member. It all depends on the person, your personality, and your needs, because we aren't the same. But paying attention to your social life, because social interaction is key. Right now, depending on which part of the world we are, we can't go outside, we can't interact as much as we would like physically, but we can still keep tabs, we can still check in with each other through technology. All right, adding variety to your work, a little less routine. Changing things up a bit. Sometimes we get so caught up with work that it is just a box. We're not allowing any creativity to flow. However, routine is also helpful in some cases because everybody's situation is different. For example, you're working at home during the pandemic. Routine may be key, it may be necessary because you're not in your workspace. It is different. So providing some amount of routine that will be able to help you be less distracted within your workspace. Taking a break from your workspace is also important. That might mean if it is that you can take a 5 or 10-minute walk outside, getting out of the office of itself, even if it means going to the bathroom, take a few breaths. If it's not possible for you to leave the workspace, maybe listening to some music for a few minutes just to rebalance. Declutter your workspace. A lot of clutter can cause you to shift your balance. So making sure that you have a clean and a neat workspace and eliminate as much distractions as you possibly can. Getting involved in employee social programs, and this depends on the organization that you're in. Some organizations do offer such services where employees can have fun. There are extracurricular activities depending on the type of organization that you're in. Also taking a mental health break. Depending on your organization as well, there are mental health days that some organizations would offer, some may not. Or you can just take a personal day and do absolutely nothing. No cleaning, no cooking, nothing. Just relaxing, no goals for that day, no plans for that day, and no plan day, just to relax and to rebalance. All right, supporting your mental health within the workplace, and this is for both the employer and the employee's perspective. Active listening, listening keenly to what either staff or your colleague is saying, not judging, rephrasing what the person is saying so they can know that you're understanding where they're coming from, that you're not just hearing them, because there is a difference between hearing and listening. Someone can say something to us and the information is going into one ear, but we're not understanding what it is the person is saying. Clarifying if you're not sure rather than jumping to conclusions. Empathize with others. Try to understand their perspective. Even if that means you agree to disagree, just try to understand someone else's perspective rather than your own. Checking in with staff and colleagues is quite important. Sometimes persons might be feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and we not know. And you may feel a bit different. You know what? My friend asked me today how I'm feeling. That can cheer somebody up. You know, just change their mood overall. Respecting confidentiality. If staff or a employee comes to you with something private, it also creates an atmosphere of trust that someone can come and they can speak to you about what may be bothering them. Referring persons to professional services, if it is that you realize that someone's challenge is more than you, knowing when to refer that person for professional services. And this would help as relates to if organizations provide some amount of mental health awareness or training knowing when to refer, all right? Because sometimes we can do more harm than good, even though we have the best interest of our staff or colleague at heart. Reducing the stigma attached to mental health and trying to normalize mental health and wellness across the board, whether this is within work or your life generally. All right, mental health awareness is quite key. Our mental health is important. It is important just as much as our physical health is. As we would have discussed before, physical health and mental health goes hand in hand. It's not in isolation. So reducing the stigma attached to mental health and creating a safe space overall for employees to relax, to have fun, and just feel safe. All right, so we'll look at self-care now. There are different forms of self-care. So there is psychological, social, spiritual, financial, professional, and physical. Physical, making sure that you get the appropriate amount of rest. It is normally recommended 6 to 8 hours, making sure that you're getting the amount of sleep that you need. Exercising, paying attention again to your diet and nutrition. The psychological, for example, stress management, looking at your coping skills. Journaling, for example, is also an example. Your social self-care, paying attention to your boundaries between work and your personal life, having a support system. Checking in with friends, checking in with your family members, and remaining positive. All right, spiritual self-care, for example, some time alone. If it is that you would like to meditate, do your mantras, pray, depending on your spiritual core beliefs. Getting in tune with nature and just having your sacred space here. All right, financial self-care, we want to look at the way we save, our budgeting, money management, making sure that we're paying our bills. So all goes hand in hand. And for our professional self-care, we pretty much would have touched on self-care as it relates to work overall. So no need for me to go over that. All right. I would like for us to look at some relaxation techniques called deep breathing, meditation, progressive muscle relaxation, and imagery. At the end of the session, I will upload the PowerPoint for you to get the slides because I would have placed a few links for videos for deep breathing, meditation, and progressive muscle relaxation. I swear by deep breathing. I absolutely love deep breathing. It helps to bring a calm to the body. It helps to relax. It helps us to rebalance. It just shifts the mind in a completely different state altogether. All right, so there is a video on deep breathing. So I will share that with you. All righty.
The first exercise in our relaxation toolkit involves something we've all experienced at some point or have been very close to experiencing: shortness of breath during times of stress. When we're anxious or stressed, our breathing becomes very shallow. The breath we take isn't fully drawn into the lungs, and there's more contained in our chest. This brings us to our very first exercise of stress reduction: deep breathing. It's also known as abdominal breathing, belly breathing, or diaphragmatic breathing. This technique consists of breathing through the belly and not the chest in a slower and deeper fashion. There are many physical benefits to this simple technique. Deep breathing lowers your heart rate, your blood pressure, increases your energy levels, and decreases your muscle tension and pain. Not to mention the mental health benefits, including decreased anxiety and stress, as well as improved sleep and a more focused mind. Let's practice. Sit or lie down in a comfortable position. Begin by taking a deep breath in and a long, relaxing breath out. The idea here is to achieve a slow and steady breath. Go ahead and place one hand on your chest and your other on your abdomen, if this feels comfortable for you. Now try and keep your chest rather still and have your abdomen expand and contract as you deeply breathe. Some people find it helpful to count while they take their deep breaths. For example, you may count like this: in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. This counting can help you with consistency. Try to practice this regularly a few times throughout the day for a few minutes. It will relax you physically and mentally during times of stress.